The Whispering Woods, a tale of magic and mystery. In a distant land, where the mountains kissed the sky and the rivers sang songs of ancient times, there lay a forest shrouded in legend. It was called the Whispering Woods, a place where the trees were said to hold the secrets of the universe. The villagers who lived nearby spoke of it in hushed tones, their voices trembling with a mix of awe and fear. They warned their children never to venture too close, for the forest was no ordinary place. The trees are alive, they would say, their eyes wide with superstition. They speak to those who listen, but not all who enter return. Some are lost forever, their whispers swallowed by the shadows. The forest was a place of contradictions, both beautiful and terrifying, inviting and forbidding. Its canopy was so thick that even on the brightest days, only slivers of sunlight pierced through, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. At night, the woods came alive with an eerie glow, as if the very leaves were imbued with starlight. The air was always thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the silence was so profound that it seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. But Elara, a curious and brave girl of 12, had always been drawn to the mysteries of the Whispering Woods. While other children played in the safety of the village square, she would sit at the edge of the forest, her eyes fixed on the towering trees, her heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and longing. Her grandmother, a wise woman who had once been the village storyteller, had told her tales of the forest's magic. The trees are not just trees, her grandmother had said one evening, her voice low and reverent. They are guardians of knowledge, ancient beings who have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. They hold the secrets of the universe, but they do not share them lightly. They choose who may hear their whispers, and only those with a pure heart and a courageous spirit can hope to understand their wisdom. Elara had listened to her grandmother's stories with rapt attention, her imagination alight with visions of the forest's wonders. She had dreamed of the day she might step into the Whispering Woods and uncover its secrets. But as the years passed, the villagers' warnings grew louder, and even her grandmother's tales took on a darker tone. The forest is not to be trifled with, the old woman had said one night, her eyes clouded with worry. It is a place of great power, but also great danger. Many have entered, but few have returned. Those who do are never the same. Yet, despite the warnings, Elara's curiosity only grew stronger. She felt a pull, as if the forest itself was calling to her. And so, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned shades of orange and purple, Elara stood at the edge of the forest, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. She had made up her mind. She would enter the Whispering Woods and uncover its secrets. With a small satchel of food slung over her shoulder, a lantern to light her way, and her grandmother's old compass clutched tightly in her hand, she took a deep breath and stepped into the shadows of the towering trees. The moment she crossed the threshold, the air seemed to shift, growing cooler and heavier, as if the forest was aware of her presence. The whispers began almost immediately, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from all directions at once. Elara's breath caught in her throat, but she forced herself to keep moving, her lantern casting flickering shadows on the gnarled trunks around her. As she ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around her, the trees growing taller and more twisted, their branches intertwining to form a canopy so thick that even the moonlight struggled to penetrate. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and Elara felt a strange sensation, as if the forest was testing her, probing her heart and mind. She tightened her grip on the compass and pressed on, her resolve unwavering. She had come this far, and she would not turn back now. The first encounter. The forest was unlike anything Elara had ever seen. The trees were ancient, their trunks wide and gnarled, twisted by centuries of wind and rain. Their branches reached toward the sky like skeletal fingers, intertwining to form a canopy so dense that only faint beams of moonlight filtered through. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the ground beneath her feet was soft with moss, cushioning each step she took. Everywhere she looked, there were signs of life: vines coiled around tree trunks, mushrooms glowing faintly in the shadows, and flowers that seemed to bloom and wither in the blink of an eye. But despite the forest's beauty, there was something unsettling about it. As Elara walked deeper, she noticed an eerie silence. No birds chirped, no insects buzzed, not even the rustle of leaves broke the stillness. It was as if the world had paused to listen, holding its breath in anticipation. The only sound was the soft crunch of moss beneath her boots and the faint thud of her heartbeat in her ears. Then she heard it, a whisper. At first, it was so faint that she thought it might be the wind. But as she stopped and listened, the sound grew clearer. It was a voice, soft and melodic, like the chime of a distant bell. The words were indistinct, but the tone was warm and inviting. Elara turned her head, trying to locate the source, but the sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It echoed through the trees, bouncing off the trunks and swirling around her like a gentle breeze. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her words to fade into the silence. "Welcome, traveler," the voice replied, clearer now. It was neither male nor female, but something ancient and timeless, like the creak of old wood or the rush of a distant river. Elara's eyes darted around, searching for the speaker, but she saw no one. Then her gaze fell on the tree beside her. Its bark shimmered faintly, as if dusted with starlight, and its leaves glowed with a soft, golden light. The voice was coming from the tree itself. Who are you?" Elara asked, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a step closer, her lantern casting flickering shadows on the tree's gnarled trunk. "I am one of the guardians of this forest," the tree replied, its voice calm and steady. "You have a pure heart, Elara. That is why you can hear me. But be warned, the path ahead is not easy. The forest will test you. Are you ready?" Elara swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she clutched her grandmother's compass. She thought of the stories her grandmother had told her of the brave souls who had entered the Whispering Woods and never returned. But she also thought of the secrets the forest held, the wisdom that could change her life forever. She took a deep breath and nodded, though her voice wavered as she spoke. "I am." The trials of the forest. As Elara ventured deeper, the forest seemed to come alive around her. The trees whispered to one another, their voices blending into a symphony of secrets. Some spoke in riddles, others in songs, and still others in languages she couldn't understand. She passed a stream where the water sparkled like liquid silver, its surface so still that it reflected the stars above. A fox with eyes like emeralds watched her from the shadows, its gaze piercing and knowing. For a moment, Elara felt as though the forest was watching her, testing her, waiting to see if she was truly worthy of its secrets. But the forest was not just beautiful, it was also treacherous. The first trial came in the form of a dense fog that rolled in suddenly, obscuring her vision. One moment, the path ahead was clear, the next, she was enveloped in a thick, impenetrable mist. Elara could barely see her own hands in front of her face, and the whispers of the trees grew muffled and distant. Panic rose in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She remembered her grandmother's words, "When you are lost, listen to your heart." Closing her eyes, Elara took a deep breath and focused on the sound of her heartbeat. Slowly, the whispers of the trees grew louder, guiding her through the fog. They led her in a winding path, their voices a steady hum in her ears. When she finally opened her eyes, she found herself in a clearing bathed in moonlight. The fog was gone, and the air was crisp and clear. She had passed the first trial. The second trial came soon after. Elara reached a river, but this was no ordinary river. Its waters burned with flames that danced and flickered, casting an orange glow on the surrounding trees. The heat was unbearable, and Elara hesitated, unsure how to cross. She scanned the riverbank, searching for a bridge or a shallow spot, but there was none. Just as despair began to creep in, she noticed something, a series of stepping stones hidden just beneath the surface of the water. They were barely visible, their edges glowing faintly in the firelight. The trees whispered, "Trust your instincts." Elara took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stone. The flames licked at her feet, but they did not burn her. With careful steps, she made her way across, her heart pounding with each movement. The heat was intense, and the smoke stung her eyes, but she pressed on, guided by the whispers of the trees. When she reached the other side, she collapsed onto the bank, her body trembling with relief. She had passed the second trial. The final trial was the hardest. Elara came upon a massive tree with a hollow trunk. Inside, she saw a mirror. It was not an ordinary mirror, its surface was dark and swirling, like a pool of ink. When Elara looked into it, she didn't see her reflection. Instead, she saw her deepest fears, failure, loneliness, and the unknown. The images were vivid and unsettling, and she felt a wave of dread wash over her. The trees whispered, "To move forward, you must face yourself." Elara's hands trembled as she reached out to touch the mirror. The surface rippled, and the images grew sharper, more intense. She saw herself alone, lost in the forest, with no one to guide her. She saw herself failing, falling short of her dreams. She saw the vast, endless unknown, stretching out before her like an abyss. But then she remembered the words of the guardian tree, "You have a pure heart." She took a deep breath and stared into the mirror, acknowledging her fears but refusing to let them control her. "I am not alone," she whispered. "I am strong. I am enough." As she spoke, the mirror began to crack, its surface shattering into 1,000 pieces. The images faded, and the path ahead cleared. Elara stepped back, her heart racing but her spirit unbroken. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger. The forest had tested her, and she had proven herself worthy. The heart of the forest. At last, after what felt like an eternity of trials and whispers, Elara reached the heart of the whispering woods. The forest seemed to part before her, the trees bowing slightly as if in reverence, their leaves rustling in a harmonious chorus. The air grew warmer, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming flowers and the earthy aroma of ancient wood. The ground beneath her feet was soft, covered in a carpet of moss that glowed faintly, as if lit by an inner light. In the center of a vast clearing stood the elder tree, the oldest and wisest of them all. It was a sight to behold. Its trunk was so wide that it would take 100 people linking hands to encircle it, and its bark was etched with intricate patterns that seemed to tell stories of ages past. Its branches stretched high into the heavens, disappearing into the night sky, where they seemed to touch the stars themselves. The air around the tree hummed with energy, a low, resonant vibration that Elara could feel in her bones. The ground was covered in glowing flowers, their petals shimmering in hues of gold, silver, and blue, casting an ethereal light that illuminated the clearing. Elara approached the elder tree with a mixture of awe and trepidation. She could feel its presence, ancient and powerful, like a force of nature itself. As she drew closer, the tree's leaves rustled, and a deep, resonant voice filled the air. It was not just a sound, but a feeling, a vibration that seemed to echo within her very soul. Elara, the elder tree said, its voice slow and deliberate, each word carrying the weight of centuries. You have come far. You have faced fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and you have emerged stronger. The forest has tested you, and you have proven yourself worthy. Now, tell me, what is it you seek? Elara stood before the tree, her heart pounding. She had thought about this moment for so long, but now that it was here, she found herself at a loss for words. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, allowing the question to settle in her mind. What did she truly seek? Was it knowledge? Power? Or something deeper, something she couldn't quite name? I seek wisdom, she said at last, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within her. I want to understand the world and my place in it. I want to know why I am here, what my purpose is, and how I can make a difference. The elder tree's leaves rustled again, and a shower of golden light fell upon Elara, enveloping her in a warm, radiant glow. The light seemed to seep into her skin, filling her with a sense of calm and clarity she had never known. The tree's voice, when it spoke again, was gentle yet profound. The greatest wisdom is this: the universe is not outside of you, it is within you. You are not separate from the world around you, you are a part of it, just as it is a part of you. From the smallest blade of grass to the farthest star, everything is connected. The answers you seek are not in the forest or the sky, but in your own heart. Look within, and you will find the truth you have been searching for. As the words sank in, Elara felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. She realized that the journey she had undertaken, the trials, the whispers, the moments of doubt and fear, had not been about finding answers outside herself. It had been about discovering who she truly was, about understanding the strength and wisdom that had always been within her. The golden light around her grew brighter, and for a moment she felt as though she was floating, weightless and free. She saw flashes of her life, her childhood in the village, her grandmother's stories, her first steps into the forest. She saw the faces of the people she loved, the beauty of the natural world, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. And through it all, she felt a deep, unshakable connection to everything around her. When the light finally faded, Elara opened her eyes to find herself standing in the clearing, the elder tree before her, its leaves still rustling softly. The glowing flowers at her feet pulsed gently, as if in rhythm with her heartbeat. She felt different, lighter, wiser, and more at peace than she had ever been. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. The elder tree's leaves rustled in response, and she felt a warmth in her chest, as if the tree had acknowledged her words. The return. When Elara emerged from the whispering woods, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. The villagers, who had gathered at the edge of the forest in a mixture of hope and despair, gasped in astonishment. They had thought her lost forever, swallowed by the shadows of the ancient trees. But here she was, walking out of the forest as if she had merely taken a stroll through the meadow. Elara was changed. Her once familiar face now carried an air of quiet confidence, and her eyes sparkled with a wisdom that seemed far beyond her years. Her hair, though tangled with leaves and twigs, seemed to shimmer faintly, as if touched by the forest's magic. The villagers stared at her in awe, their whispers filling the air like the rustle of leaves. "Elara," a voice called out. It was her grandmother, pushing through the crowd with tears in her eyes. The old woman embraced her tightly, her hands trembling as she cupped Elara's face. "You came back," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I knew you would. The forest chose you." Elara smiled softly, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. "I found what I was looking for," she said, her voice steady and calm. "But it wasn't what I expected." The villagers gathered around her, their faces a mix of curiosity and fear. They had always feared the Whispering Woods, but now they were captivated by the girl who had returned from its depths. Elara looked at them, her gaze steady and kind. "The forest is not what we thought," she began. "It is alive, and it speaks to those who listen. But it is not a place of darkness, it is a place of wisdom, of connection, of truth." Her grandmother nodded, her eyes filled with pride. "You have done what no one else could," she said. "The forest has chosen you, and now you must share its wisdom with the world." The storyteller. From that day on, Elara became the village's new storyteller. She would gather the villagers in the square, beneath the shade of the old oak tree, and tell them tales of the Whispering Woods. She spoke of the ancient trees that whispered secrets, of the trials that tested her courage, and of the elder tree that revealed the greatest truth of all: that the universe is not outside of us, but within us. The villagers listened with rapt attention, their fear of the forest slowly giving way to wonder and awe. Children sat at her feet, their eyes wide with fascination, while the elders nodded thoughtfully, recognizing the wisdom in her words. Even those who had once mocked her curiosity now hung on her every word, their hearts stirred by the magic of her stories. But Elara's tales were not just for the villagers. Travelers passing through the village would stop to listen, carrying her stories with them to distant lands. Soon, the legend of the Whispering Woods spread far and wide, and people began to see the forest not as a place of fear, but as a symbol of wisdom and connection. The legacy. Years passed, and Elara grew into a wise and compassionate woman. Her once youthful face now bore the gentle lines of time, but her eyes still sparkled with the same light that had guided her through the Whispering Woods all those years ago. She had become a pillar of the village, a source of wisdom and comfort for all who sought her counsel. Yet, despite her growing responsibilities, she often found herself drawn back to the forest, not to seek answers, but to listen. The Whispering Woods had not changed. The trees still stood tall and ancient, their branches reaching toward the heavens, their leaves shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The air was still thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the ground beneath her feet was soft with moss. But for Elara, the forest was no longer a place of mystery and fear, it was a sanctuary, a place of peace and reflection. Whenever she entered the forest, the trees would greet her with their gentle whispers, their voices a soothing melody that calmed her soul. They shared their secrets with her, not as riddles to be solved, but as reminders of the connection between all living things. She would sit beneath the elder tree, its massive trunk a comforting presence, and listen as the forest spoke of the cycles of life, the balance of nature, and the eternal dance of the universe. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, Elara sat in the clearing at the heart of the forest. The elder tree's leaves rustled softly, and its voice, deep and resonant, filled the air. "Elara," it said, "you have carried our wisdom into the world. You have shared our secrets with those who were ready to listen. But now, the time has come for you to pass on the torch." Elara looked up at the tree, her heart heavy with the weight of its words. "What do you mean?" she asked, though deep down, she already knew. "The forest will always be here," the tree replied, "but your journey is nearing its end. You must choose someone to carry on your legacy, someone who will listen to our whispers and share our wisdom with the world." Elara nodded, her mind already turning to the young girl in the village who reminded her so much of herself, curious, brave, and full of wonder. She knew what she had to do. The new guardian. The next morning, Elara returned to the village and sought out the girl, whose name was Lila. She was no more than 10 years old, with wide, curious eyes and a heart full of dreams. Elara took her aside and told her the story of the Whispering Woods, of the trials she had faced, and the wisdom she had gained. Lila listened with rapt attention, her eyes shining with excitement. "Do you think I could hear the trees too?" Lila asked, her voice trembling with hope. Elara smiled and placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "If your heart is pure and your spirit is brave, the forest will choose you," she said. "But remember, the journey is not easy. The forest will test you, just as it tested me. Are you ready?" Lila nodded, her determination shining through. "I am." And so, Elara began to teach Lila the ways of the forest. She showed her how to listen not just with her ears, but with her heart. She taught her to recognize the whispers of the trees and to understand the language of the natural world. Together, they would sit at the edge of the forest, and Elara would share stories of her adventures, her voice carrying the magic of the Whispering Woods to a new generation. The Eternal Whisper. As the years went by, Elara's strength began to wane, but her spirit remained as vibrant as ever. She knew that her time was drawing near, but she was at peace. She had fulfilled her purpose, and she had found someone to carry on her legacy. One quiet evening, as the stars filled the sky and the forest hummed with life, Elara returned to the Whispering Woods for the last time. She walked slowly, her steps guided by the whispers of the trees, until she reached the clearing at the heart of the forest. The elder tree stood before her, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. "Thank you," Elara whispered, her voice barely audible. "For everything." The tree's leaves rustled, and a shower of golden light fell upon her, enveloping her in a warm, radiant glow. She felt a profound sense of peace, as if the forest itself was embracing her. And as the light faded, Elara closed her eyes and let out a soft sigh, her spirit merging with the whispers of the trees. The legend lives on. Though Elara was gone, her legacy lived on. Lila, now a young woman, became the village's new storyteller, sharing the wisdom of the Whispering Woods with all who would listen. The villagers, once fearful of the forest, now saw it as a place of wonder and connection, a symbol of the eternal bond between all living things. And so, the legend of the Whispering Woods endured, a testament to the power of curiosity, courage, and the wisdom that lies within us all. And if you listen closely on a quiet night, when the stars are bright and the wind is still, you might just hear the trees whispering their secrets to the stars, their voices carried on the breeze to those who are ready to listen. The end.